Hey, this is Rich over at TVP Live with yet another quick tips tutorial brought to you by Adobe Photoshop Elements Tutorial Group. And let's jump right in there. This poster here wanted to know what can be done with this image, whether it's an original or if it has been photoshopped or photo elements shopped. So let's go ahead and try this ourselves and see what we can do with it. If I try to use the magic tool at, let's say, 50%, it's not going to work too well because, as you can see, it's grabbing part of the bird. So if I hit delete, it's going to delete a bunch of stuff, including most of the tree. So even if I lessen, let me get rid of that. If I'm going to lessen this to, like, I don't know, 20% on the magic tool, and see, it's not grabbing everything, and it's going to leave the tree all jaggedy. So once again, let's do this by scratch. We're going to grab the eraser, and I'm going to unlock the picture, and I'm going to still use a soft tool, a soft brush, but a very small one, like 5 point. And I can hold shift and do shift click as I'm erasing parts of this. Now, somebody had mentioned that they noticed this edge here being frazzled like this. It's pixelated because I don't think it's because it was actually originally cut out like this. I think personally that the reason why the edges are like this is because the camera is not the highest resolution, and there's no such thing as a perfect line in photography. So you're always going to have little jaggedies, no matter how close or how good the camera is, especially if you're far away like this. There's no way to get this line to be a straight line. So we're just going to cut it out by hand, basically. Okay, now that we've cut around most of the image, I'm going to make an executive decision and cover up this section, because to do each one of these blades, although it is doable, for time's sake, I'm just going to cover all this with new pine needles. So I'm going to take a larger eraser and just come down to this edge here. And since I'm going to be getting rid of this, because we can redo that from scratch, I'll just bring it down to here, like that. Maybe we could do our own. It doesn't have to be exactly the way the original is. Somebody said that it had to be the same as the original, and you know what? It doesn't matter. What they don't know is not going to hurt them. I'm going to zoom out and hit delete, and boom, there we go, no more background. Now let's go ahead and grab a new background. I took the liberty to bring in a couple choices. Here's some trees. We're going to bring that in to our current picture, and you can see it's obviously too small. So what we're going to do is we're going to enlarge it. We want it to be a little bit larger because we're going to use the Gaussian blur, and inadvertently what happens is the Gaussian blur is going to reduce the size of what's visible. Let's first take it to the back behind. So now we got the trees behind the birds. Obviously it's too sharp for this photo because we want it to look sort of like the other photo. So we go over to Filter, Blur, and hit Gaussian blur, and it automatically brought it up at about 10%. That looks really nice. I'm going to bring it down. So you can see it kind of looks more realistic and less of a close lens. Or I can bring it up like a lot, make it look like the other photo that was here, which is like way up here, just totally blurred. But I kind of liked it right at about 15 point. Let's bring it down to about 10 points so you can kind of see the trees in the background. That looks pretty nice. I like that. Let's change the color temperature a little bit of the birds to match this background. The background has more, the color temperature is warmer. So we're going to take the original and we're going to go to Enhance Lighting Brightness. Color Hue Saturation. And let me move that aside so you can see it. I'm just going to simply saturate the photo a little bit more. I can go down to nothing, all the way really hot, and kind of play around with it till it matches a little bit more with the photo behind it. And that looks nice there at plus 20. So I just added 20% of color saturation, and we can play with the lightness a little bit, give it a little brighter feel like that. That's a plus 3. We like that. Now let's bring in something to cover up these pine needles. I've got some pine needles over here and right over here. So let's first take this one here, bring it into our photo, and it's obviously too big. We're going to resize it, and let's turn it sideways. And how about we flip it around? Go to Image, Rotate, Vertical, and now it looks more realistic. We're just going to cover that bottom piece down here with a little bit of this here, and I like that right around there. And let's grab that other one here. These are just PNGs I found on the internet. Just do a search for pine needles. That's too big, so we make it a little bit smaller. And it doesn't have to be original. This is like hodgepodge. Make it up as you go along. Here we go. I want this one behind the other one, so I'm going to pull this layer underneath behind the other pine needles, so these are in front. Go back to my pine needles here, and bring them down to about there. And I'm going to go to Enhance Lighting Contrast. Since they're behind, I'm going to darken them a little bit and make them a little more contrasty. And therefore these front ones here should pop out a little bit more. Anyway, that's all there is to it, to cut out the birds and put them into a new background. And I like what we did. Anyway, this is Rich calling it quits for this photo, saying over and out.